Anne Frank, The Diary of a Young Girl. Saturday, 27th March, 1943. Dear Kitty, we have finished our shorthand course. Now we are beginning to practice speed. Aren't we getting clever? I must tell you more about my time-killing subjects. I call them such because we have got nothing else to do but make the days go by as quickly as possible, so that the end of our time here comes more quickly. I'm mad on mythology and especially the gods of Greece and Rome. They think here that it is just a passing craze. They've never heard of an adolescent kid of my age being interested in mythology. Well, then I shall be the first. Mr. Van Daan has a cold, or rather he has a little tickle in his throat. He makes a tremendous fuss about it, gargling with chamomile tea, painting his throat with tincture of myrrh, rubbing eucalyptus all over his chest, nose, teeth, and tongue, and then getting into an evil mood on top of it all. Roder, one of the German big shots, has made a speech. All Jews must be out of the German-occupied countries before July 1st. Between April 1st and May 1st, the province of Utrecht must be cleaned out, as if the Jews were cockroaches. Between May 1st and June 1st, the provinces of North and South Holland. These wretched people are sent to filthy slaughterhouses, like a herd of sick, neglected cattle. But I won't talk about it. I only get nightmares from such thoughts. One good little piece of news is that the German Department of the Labor Exchange has been set on fire by saboteurs. A few days after, the registrar's office went the same way. Men in German police uniforms gagged the guards and managed to destroy important papers. Yours, Anne. Thursday, 1st April, 1943. Dear Kitty, I'm really not April fooling, see the date, but the opposite. Today I can easily quote the saying, misfortunes never come singly. To begin with, Mr. Kufus, the one who always cheers us up, has had hemorrhage of the stomach and has got to stay in bed for at least 3 weeks. Secondly, Ellie has a flu. Thirdly, Mr. Vossen is going to the hospital next week. He has probably got an abdominal ulcer. And fourthly, some important business conferences, the main points of which Daddy had discussed in detail with Mr. Kufus, were due to be held. But now there isn't time to explain everything thoroughly to Mr. Kraler. The gentlemen who had been expected duly arrived. Even before they came, Daddy was trembling with anxiety as to how the talks would go. If only I could be there, if only I was downstairs, he cried. Why don't you go and lie with one ear pressed against the floor? Then you'll be able to hear everything. Paddy's face cleared, and at 10:30 yesterday morning, Margot and Pim, 2 ears are better than one, took up their positions on the floor. The talks were not finished in the morning, but by the afternoon Daddy was not in a fit state to continue the listening campaign. He was half paralyzed from remaining in so unusual and uncomfortable a position. I took his place at 2:30, as soon as we heard voices in the passage. Margot kept me company. The talk at times was so long-winded and boring that quite suddenly I fell asleep on the cold, hard linoleum floor. Margot did not dare to touch me for fear they might hear us, and talking was out of the question. I slept for a good half hour and then woke up with a shock, having forgotten every word of the important discussions. Luckily, Margot had paid more attention. Yours, Anne. Friday, 2nd April, 1943. Dear Kitty, oh dear, I've got another terrible black mark against my name. I was lying in bed yesterday evening waiting for Daddy to come and say my prayers with me and wish me good night when Mummy came into my room, sat on my bed and asked very nicely, Anne, Daddy can't come yet. Shall I say your prayers with you tonight? No, Mummy, I answered. Mummy got up, paused by my bed for a moment, and walked slowly towards the door. Suddenly she turned around and with a distorted look on her face said, I don't want to be cross. Love cannot be forced. There were tears in her eyes as she left the room. I lay still in bed, feeling at once that I had been horrible to push her away so rudely. But I knew, too, that I couldn't have answered differently. It simply wouldn't work. I felt sorry for Mummy, very, very sorry, because I had seen for the first time in my life that she minds my coldness. I saw the look of sorrow on her face when she spoke of love not being forced. It is hard to speak the truth, and yet it is the truth. She herself has pushed me away. Her tactless remarks and her crude jokes, which I don't find at all funny, have now made me insensitive to any love from her side. Just as I shrink at her hard words, so did her heart when she realized that the love between us was gone. She cried half the night and hardly slept at all. Daddy doesn't look at me, and if he does for a second, then I read in his eyes the words, How can you be so unkind? How can you bring yourself to cause your mother such sorrow? They expect me to apologize, but this is something I can't apologize for because I spoke the truth, and Mummy will have to know it sooner or later anyway. I seem, and indeed am, indifferent both to Mummy's tears and Daddy's looks, because for the first time they are both aware of something which I have always felt. I can only feel sorry for Mummy, who has now had to discover that I have adopted her own attitude. For myself, I remain silent and aloof, and I shall not shrink from the truth any longer, because the longer it is put off, the more difficult it will be for them when they do hear it. Yours, Anne. Tuesday, 27th April, 1943. Dear Kitty, such quarrels that the whole house thunders. Mummy and I, the Van Dans and Daddy, Mummy and Mrs. Van Dan. Everyone is angry with everyone else. Nice atmosphere, isn't it? Anne's usual list of failings has been brought out again and fully ventilated. Mr. Vossen is already in the Benengastuis hospital. Mr. Kufus is up again, the hemorrhage having stopped sooner than usual. He told us that the registrar's office received additional damage from the fire service, who, instead of just quenching the flames, soaked the whole place with water. I'm glad. The Carlton Hotel is smashed to bits. 2 British planes loaded with incendiary bombs fell right on top of the Offizierscheme. The whole Vigelstraat single corner is burned down. The air raids on German towns are growing in strength every day. We don't have a single quiet night. I've got dark rings under my eyes from lack of sleep. Our food is miserable. Dry bread and coffee substitute for breakfast. Dinner, spinach or lettuce for a fortnight on end. Potatoes 20 centimeters long and tasting sweet and rotten. Whoever wants to follow a slimming course should stay in the secret annex. They complain bitterly upstairs, but we don't regard it as such a tragedy. All the men who fought in 1940 were mobilized, have been called up to work for Der Führer as prisoners of war. Suppose they're doing that as a precaution against invasion. Yours, Anne. Saturday, 1st May, 1943. Dear Kitty, if I just think of how we live here, I usually come to the conclusion that it is a paradise compared with how other Jews who are not in hiding must be living. Even so, later on, when everything is normal again, I shall be amazed to think that we, who were so spick and span at home, should have sunk to such a low level. By this I mean that our manners have declined. For instance, ever since we have been here, we have had one oilcloth on our table, which, owing to so much use, is not one of the cleanest. Admittedly, I often try to clean it with a dirty dishcloth, which is more whole than cloth. The table doesn't do us much credit either, in spite of hard scrubbing. The Van Dans have been sleeping on the same flannelette sheet the whole winter. One can't wash it here because the soap powder we get on the ration isn't sufficient. And besides, it's not good enough. Daddy goes about in frayed trousers, and his tie is beginning to show signs of wear, too. Mummy's corsets have split today and are too old to be repaired, while Margot goes about in a brassiere 2 sizes too small for her. Mummy and Margot have managed the whole winter with 3 vests between them, and mine are so small that they don't even reach my tummy. Certainly, these are all things which can be overcome. Still, I sometimes realize with a shock, how are we, now going about in worn-out things, from my pants down to Daddy's shaving brush, ever going to get back to our pre-war standards? They were banging away so much last night that 4 times I gathered all my belongings together. Today I have packed a suitcase with the most necessary things for an escape. But Mummy quite rightly says, where will you escape to? The whole of Holland is being punished for the strikes, which have been going on in many parts of the country. Therefore, a state of siege has been declared, and everyone gets 1 butter coupon less. What naughty little children! Yours, Anne. Tuesday, 18th May, 1943. Dear Kitty, I witnessed a terrific air battle between German and British planes. Unfortunately, a couple of the Allies had to jump from burning machines. Our milkman, who lives in Halfweg, saw 4 Canadians sitting by the roadside. One of them spoke fluent Dutch. He asked the milkman to give him a light for his cigarette, and told him that the crew had consisted of 6 men. The pilot was burned to death, and their 5th man had hidden himself somewhere. The German police came and fetched the 4 perfectly fit men. I wondered how they managed to have such clear brains after that terrifying parachute trip. Although it is fairly warm, we have to light our fires every other day in order to burn vegetable peelings and refuse. We can't put anything in the garbage pails because we must always think of the warehouse boy. How easily one could be betrayed by being a little careless. All students who wish either to get their degrees this year or continue their studies are compelled to sign that they are in sympathy with the Germans and approve of the new order. 80% have refused to go against their consciences. Naturally, they had to bear the consequences. All the students who do not sign have to go to a labor camp in Germany. What will be left of the youth of the country if they have all got to do hard labor in Germany? Mummy shut the window last night because of all the banging. I was in Pim's bed. Suddenly, Mrs. Van Daan jumped out of bed above us, just as if Moshi had bitten her. A loud clap followed immediately. It sounded as if an incendiary bomb had fallen beside my bed. I shrieked out, "Light! Light!" and Pim turned on the lamp. I expected nothing less than to see the room ablaze within a few minutes. Nothing happened. We all hurried upstairs to see what was going on. Mr. and Mrs. Van Daan had seen a red glow through the open window. He thought that there was a fire in the neighborhood, and she thought that our house had caught fire. When the clap came, Mrs. Van Daan was already on her feet with her knees knocking. But nothing more happened, and we all crept back into our beds. Before a quarter of an hour had passed, the shooting started up again. Mrs. Van Daan sat bolt upright at once and then went downstairs to Mr. Dussel's room, seeking there the rest which she could not find with her spouse. Dussel received her with the words, "Come into bed, my child," which sent us off into uncontrollable laughter. The gunfire troubled us no longer. Our fear was banished. Yours, Anne.